Hi there, how are you? In the name of Christ, it's your girl, Cranky Garabo. I hope you're good. I do apologize in the background if there is a little bit of a glitchy screen from my computer. It's only because I'm busy processing other stuff in the background because I work in parallel. Work gotta go out, whether or not even anybody's looking at it. Alright, so I'm gonna be speaking my heart as usual, like every day. I come here and I pour my heart out, whatever it is that is sitting on that heart of mine. I just pour it out, and I hope to be comprehensible. I hope to be understandable, and I hope to be gracious. I really hope that the Lord speaks through me as opposed to me coming in my own flesh or whatever. It is the discussion of my own life issues, or how I feel inside my heart. So sometimes there maybe potentially might be a bias chilling inside me, in which case I pray that the Lord gives me grace to iron it out or cancel it or whatever. I don't know. So, just like yesterday, I rocked up here yesterday and I spoke about um, the Power Rangers. You will remember I spoke about romance, I spoke about love, I spoke about what God does, and that He's in the business of taking the weak things of the world to shame the strong, and the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. So today is a sort of an extension on that, to sort of kind of create a caveat, like a bit of a however, though. It must be gauged thoroughly by people so that they don't walk around irresponsibly to imagine that because they're in a weak position, they are automatically favored by God, or they are in a foolish position, they are automatically favored by God. The Lord gives increase to a person that actually has desire to grow, or people that have desire to gain wisdom. He does not merely just grab a blob on the side of the street and decides that I'm going to give you great power tomorrow because you're weak. That particular individual on the side of the street has to have a strong desire to now serve Christ. I want to touch or allude very briefly to the concept of socialism and why it's problematic. Like, you know how North Korea is a socialistic nation. I want to touch on why it's problematic. It appears not to be problematic until you take a close look at it. Communism, socialism, those governmental regimes, why they're problematic as opposed to beneficial, and why it is that people in the kingdom of heaven must be careful to not imagine that Jesus was a pontiff of the socialistic governmental regime. In the Acts of the Apostles, it is very clear that that is not what is going on. Okay, so socialism basically goes on a very Robin Hoodic type mindset that says that steal from the rich and give to the poor. That's basically socialism in a nutshell. That's what communistic regimes are like. They are into wealth distribution very ubiquitously in order to wealth redistribution in order to sort of kind of equalize wealth or distribute wealth across their ecosystem, so that there aren't people that are too wealthy, and there are also aren't people that are too poor, that everybody just basically has to be getting their daily bread. So no one gets left out. No one gets to go hungry. No one gets to be without shelter. No one gets to struggle. And everybody might imagine, when they look at that from a bird's eye view without looking at the granular details, that that is an acceptable governmental structure, because of course we don't want anybody going hungry. We don't want anybody suffering, struggling, living on the street. We don't want people to not have what they basically need. There are some gems to be therefore appreciated by the socialistic ideal, because it does think about everyone, leaving no one out. However, in a world that is with peaks and troughs, and it's not just a smooth road, socialism becomes a problem. So the Bible says that the human heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. The Bible also says that we as human beings are born dead in trespasses and sins. Ever since Adam and Eve fell, we have been getting born in trespasses and sins. In sin did our parents conceive us, and that our most righteous works are like filthy rags. So what that translates to is that we have got character flaws. We have got things that we do that are not okay. So because we're sinners and we have a slavery to sin, like a natural propensity towards sin more than we have a natural propensity to do better. If we can get away with basically winning something that we don't deserve, or running away or running off with something that we don't deserve, then we're going to take it, we're going to run. We are just very inherently kind of opportunistic as people. So because human beings do not automatically just pull their weight. They don't automatically just have this strong desire to serve the need of their fellow man. We are born with sins within, among the sins of which are selfishnesses. We are self-centered, conceited, inward-looking. And so the whole principle of laying your life flat down on behalf of a friend, it just is like, it's something that a person has to work on. It doesn't come naturally. We gravitate more naturally towards basically getting freebies. Okay? So because human beings are born sinners like that, we as the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ, when we get saved, because we are supposed to do better than the world, must actively look inside when the Lord is distributing wealth, if you want to call it that. When the Lord is distributing food, when the Lord is giving out blessings, we have to look on the inside of our hearts to gauge if we are not presently in the process of trying to exploit somebody or a group of somebodies that have frankly earned more portions than you, right? It is responsible to do that as a person, to be concerned enough for your fellow man and responsible enough for your own body to know what is rightly due to you. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, so too shall he reap. If you sow to the flesh, you will reap corruption. But if you sow to the Spirit, you will reap eternal life. And I would imagine much more else here on earth. So thank God. We have God, Him, who looks ubiquitously very generally above the whole of the earth and all of the human activity down here, to see who is basically like Ananias and Sapphira. Who is the dude with a whole bunch of bread behind his back while giving crumbs to the laborers on the ground that have been really just striving? The Lord hates socialism, even though the Bible might appear to be socialistic. No, if you study it properly, you will realize that God is not socialistic. The Lord is in the business of rewarding. Literally, the saying, give credit where it is due. Christ is about that life. So it would be irresponsible then, as Christians, to think that when the Lord is out here giving gifts to people, He's going to just recklessly and very fecklessly just hand fairly, fair is not even the right word, but just without, like, just with Lord, like, just in an average kind of way. Like, you know, if there are 5 kids, we're going to take this one portion and divide it into 5 and give kid 1 a fifth, kid 2 a fifth, kid 3, 4, all the way up to 5 a fifth of this thing. To think that that's how God provides is to miscalculate who Jesus really is and how He operates. He rewards, it is written in His word, those who diligently seek Him. He is a rewarder of hard work. He says, whatever you do, work heartily as unto the Lord. He says that we must strive. He gives us a batch of instructions as to how to enter into the kingdom of heaven. We must strive. And He says that He's going to reward in accordance, everybody according to their works, basically. So that is why then, even in the parable of the sower, right? The Lord makes it clear that He does not just hand over to everybody 100-fold over or 60-fold over. There are some people who get 30-fold over. There are some people who get 60-fold over. There are some people who get, I believe, 100-fold over. I stand corrected as to what the 3 portions are. And this is based literally on the sowing, how much you have sown, how much you have, basically how much of your hard-earned work you've put in to the situation. You will then reap accordingly. You reap what you sow. The Bible also says, if anybody does not want to work, let them not eat. So socialism is entirely anti-Christ. That Robin Hood system of giving to, taking from the rich and giving to the poor is ungodly, like wholeheartedly. The Lord is in the business of rewarding hard work, but there are people that exist on the earth, unfortunately, that don't want to work, that don't want to pull their weight, that don't want to contribute to the equation, that do not want to plant whatever seeds need to be planted in order that a harvest might later on be reaped, right, by the conglomerate. And while the earth is unfair, God isn't unfair. One of His attributes precisely is justice. So the Lord resents it when unjust scales are present. That is an abomination to Him. That is a proverb, that the Lord hates unjust scales. So a welfare system in a country that ubiquitously just rewards bums on the street that are sitting and prepared to pull their weight to contribute to the grander scheme of the economy, that is ungodly, and that system is frankly damned by God. That system is unloved by the Lord. And even though it might appear to be something that Christ would be content with, no, He's not. People must put in work. They must strive, they must push, and then they must eat. That was actually one of the judgments on the human race after Adam and Eve fell, right? They were able to eat at their leisure, whatever they wanted to eat in the garden before they sinned. But then they sinned. And after they sinned, God literally said to Adam, from now on, you will eat by the sweat of your brow. And so therefore, if a person is eating without putting in all of that sweat, they're sinning against God. We got to earn our keep now. We have got to strive now. We've got to work now. We got to till gardens now. We got to do what we need to do in order for us to get what we need to get. Like, that's just what happened with the fall. If we hadn't fallen, it would have been all good and well. There would have been no sin found in our body, and so all of us would have earned, rightly so, all the blessings that God could give very ubiquitously. Every last one of us would get a fifth and a fifth and a fifth if there was only 5. of us if Adam and Eve did not sin. But they did sin. Because you see, that's the thing. If Adam and Eve did not sin, there would not be unjust skills. They wouldn't be doing things where it is that you are out here reaping the work, the hard work of another person. No such blemish would dwell in the human genome. And so therefore, the Lord would likely just broadly and very flatly provide for Adam and Eve world. For all the Adam and Eves in the world that has not fallen. That, you know, that's just like, that's how it's going to be. But that's how it would have, been. But it's not that way. It's not that way anymore, because Adam sinned. Eve sinned. They fell. So now they do strange stuff. Like go on right ahead and earn a 50,000 rand salary to just sit around doing nothing, gathering dust. Frankly, that is the bane of my existence in corporate. South Africa, perhaps corporate across the world entirely. People get to very senior levels, like general management, executive levels, and then they just kind of sit around like rolling like tumbleweeds in a blob in the office all day long, while call center agents at the bottom, while people at the very bottom of the company put in all the work that really brings the money into the company, but they get tiny salaries while one or two people get big fat chunky ones. It is the very unequal scales, the very inequality that Jesus Christ hates, and he's going to correct that. In the millennial reign, how things are going to run, you're going to see how God rewards with seniority people. It's not going to be based on how many years you have put in an organization and how many degrees you've got, and so therefore what ought you get paid. It's going to be based on you reap what you sow. How much work are you putting in? And so God will reward in accordance to that work. The Lord hates it to watch people, for instance, like domestic workers getting paid 100 rand for a day to like grovel, to iron and wash clothes and literally spend the whole day until the sun sets, and then you go home with 120 rands. That's what's going on. Like, it is an abomination for the Lord to look at stuff like that. It's hard work, hard labor, but it is underestimated because a person did not go to university and study in order to do it. Whereas there are people sitting in corporate, and I have lamented about this before, I've written about it, where people are sitting there like literally dilly-dallying, rolling around like tumbleweeds in the coffee shop for like 2 hours before they can even start their shift, and yet they're earning, never mind 120 rand a day, but they are earning 800 rand an hour. And those are the kinds of structures that God is going to uproot when he comes here to reign for 1,000 years. To show the human race how it was supposed to be. How after Adam fell, people were supposed to distribute resources on the earth, right? The righteous reign of Jesus Christ, I believe, is set apart by the Lord. He could have just taken us into eternity, but I do believe that the reason why the Lord even does that is to give grace to the human race, yes, of people that existed in the tribulation, that didn't take the mark of the beast, to give them a shot at repentance, and secondly, also to show how it is that it ought to have been done within a fallen world. The righteous reign of Jesus Christ is not happening in the new heaven and the new earth. It is not happening in an incorruptible space. It is happening on an earth that is fallen. It is happening on an earth that still has sinners, but it is going to be run in a righteous way, where it is that us as believers who are going to have incorruptible bodies are not going to be sinning anymore, and so we're going to be given the example to the rest of the world that still has regular bodies, how it ought to have been. I believe that's why Christ came up with the whole 1,000-year millennial reign. He could have totally just taken everybody to heaven straight away, or the new earth straight away, but it didn't. He's not doing it that way. And I believe it is in order to set the record straight as to how he actually operates. So in the millennial reign of Jesus Christ, roles are not going to determine how much a person works, but how much effort a person actually puts in to work. So if you're going to be ironing all day long as a domestic worker, you are going to earn all day long type money. You're going to have a good home, because not everybody has got the brain like Einstein to go and study rocket science or biochemistry at university and so earn a very high salary. Some people are very meager, like cognitively, they are not very strong intellectually, so all they can do is garden, so therefore it is not okay for them to work as hard as they do, only for them to be getting like 100 rand a day, never mind an hour. Can I please just like give me a shot to do what I need to do without interruptions? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Righto. So socialism is problematic for those reasons. Because it just rewards lazy people at the expense of hard-working people, at the expense of those that are actually really putting in the time. If you think even about how God dealt with Cain and Abel, it was basically a rebuke of a socialistic ideal in the heart of Cain. Cain wanted to be rewarded as well as Abel, even though he did not put in the hours or the labor or give God the appropriate sacrifice. And so God said to Cain, Cain, Satan is crouching at your door, and his desire is to consume you, is to have you, is to devour you, but you must conquer it, right? And Cain did not conquer it, because the Lord saw that Cain had an evil heart, and Cain was resentful of the fact that God was rewarding Abel's hard labor, Abel's appropriate sacrifice to God, and he groveled, he grunted, he just had an inward, anger inside him because his brother was being rewarded for the hard work that he was putting in. And God said, hey, I see what's going on in your heart. Conquer it. Conquer it, Cain. You've got a problem. You have to submit your flesh, subdue it to the Holy Spirit. You literally have got to beat your flesh into submission, because right now you are about to commit an abomination. And what did Cain do? Ignore God. So he ended up doing what? Killing Abel. When the Lord continued to reward Abel, the Lord said to Cain, will you not be rewarded if you do what is right? Like, God literally gave him a shot and an opportunity upon opportunity. And Cain still went on right ahead because of jealousy over his brother who had been investing rightly in all of the work that he wanted to invest in. He got so envious that he committed murder, like the first ever murder committed in the world. So that's what happens when a person does not listen to God. When the Lord is telling them, look, if you do what is right, I will reward you. But rather they go to their fellow sister or brother and they kill them. And then the Lord comes back to Cain and says, your brother's blood is crying out for me from the ground. What have you done? And what does Cain do? What does he say? He disrespects God. And he says that, am I my brother's keeper? So basically, you're asking the wrong person here. I'm not supposed to be taking care of that dude. So Cain got thrown out from his own home, because of what it is that he had done. Abel is with God now, but he was unjustly killed by his brother, who could not for the life of him get his act together, pull up his socks and do what is right. He would have been rewarded just like his brother Abel, if only he had done a 180 and repented. Instead, he decided to blaspheme God and murder his own blood relative, murder somebody within his own kin. And it was just downhill from there for the rest of the human race. Things like those have been going on. So socialism did the Lord rebuke already from the get-go in the story of Cain and Abel, but he also continued to rebuke it throughout the scriptures. He's the one that said, his word is him. He's the word that became flesh and dwelt among us, and he said in his word, so therefore he says that if anybody does not want to work, let them not eat. Ananias and Sapphira died because they would not put in all of the work that was supposed to be put in, or give the contribution that they said they ought, whereas everybody else did. Everybody else sold what in the world and the heaven that they were supposed to sell in order to contribute to the grander scheme of the party, but Ananias and Sapphira held on to a portion of it that they might be enriched above other people that are putting in as much work, and so they got condemned and they died, right there on the spot. They were killed. One after the other, they got killed for thinking that they can deceive God, that they can mock God. That Peter was not see, because Peter does not have an ability to be able to see through walls or through people's pockets or through hear people's thoughts and read into their minds. They imagined in their nihilistic viewpoint of life, basically, that don't nobody gotta know. Nobody has to know what we did. And so they pocketed what they were supposed to contribute, and God himself gave understanding to Peter as to what was going on, and so they got struck down. And that's how Ananias and Sapphira died. So therefore, those who are misinterpreting the Bible, to imagine that the Lord is a socialistic God that is into income redistribution very ubiquitously with a flat curve without there being peaks and troughs, it's sorely mistaken to think that way. And I speak like this because it is a temptation by Christians to imagine that they will get whatever they want from God when they ask for it without actually putting in work. Make no mistake, we do not earn our salvation. We are born again by the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ. It is a free gift of God. But when it comes to gifts and blessings, that we earn. We get rescued from eternal fire freely. But how we do on earth, we earn that. It's clear in the parable of the sower as well. Like I said, 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold, what it is that you gain. What determines whether you get 30 or 60? It literally is dependent upon what you sow in the kingdom of heaven. With whatever it is that you sow, it's not just money. I have nothing to my name, and yet I keep sowing into the kingdom with my gifts, my talents, the work that I do, that I upload daily, even though nobody's listening. I'm literally edifying the church. This is what I am sowing. And God said that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him, that we must commit our ways to him, and he will do this. He will make our righteousness shine like the dawn, and the justice of our cause like the noonday sun. That if we commit our ways to him, he will give us the desires of our heart. That if we wait on him, he will mount us up like eagles. Help us run and not faint, walk and not grow weary. Those who wait on the Lord. And then after having suffered for a little while, the God of all grace will restore us to everything that we might lack in nothing. He also says that those things that he restores us to are going to be provided for us exceedingly and abundantly above anything that we could ever think to ask for. And he also says that neither eye has seen nor ear has heard the things which God has prepared for those who wait for him. So if a person has been waiting laboriously for years, just putting in all that time in the kingdom, and then a person comes in and spots them and identifies and realizes just what an excellent find they have encountered in this space, and then just wants to run with it, grab it, walk out. You are on that day expecting God to forget about who he is. You are saying that it is okay as a man to come and grab Job's daughters. You know how they were the most beautiful in the land, when in and of yourself you have never worked a day in your life to marry the daughters of a tantamount of a king. Like, why would the Lord be so unfair to a woman that waited on him for everything she needs? Why would he be so unfair by bringing a man into her life that will only reduce her social standing, that will only reduce her financial earning potential or capacity, that will only reduce her clout, her street cred? Like, this is a person that fervently waited for years. And then someone that is barren and fallen and backslidden and darkened and like unserving, somebody that has just been compromised, like Cain, then just comes and like walks out with that for a wife. Why would God do that to his daughter? Why would the Lord make a woman wait 11 years in singlehood only to give her a man that's not even ready when he meets her to marry her? It is the belief of socialism by Christians who misinterpret what God meant when he said that share your bread, give, it will be given to you. Knock and the door will be open to you. To take scripture and butcher it out of context and imagine that the Lord is going to give a man 100-fold over of a blessing when he has only sown like a fraction, like a minuscule, very negligible seed. The Lord is not in the business of judging a person based on their social economic status. God is in the business of taking poverty-stricken people and making them wealthy. Look at what he did with Job. Yes, Job was brought from grandness and then brought low, but then he was bounced back up again. Look what he did with Joseph, Daniel, many actually of the Hebrews, the people of God in exile in Babylon. He gave them prominence within their exiled state because they worked. They put in the time. So God would never ever manufacture out of his daughters the kind of woman that you would find in this world that's going to be like, I'm not going to be with a man that ain't got no job. Or I'm not going to be with a man that ain't got this and that. Or a man that has like done this and that. Or that has these kind of statistics. Like, that's not how the kingdom of heaven operates. The Lord hung out with prostitutes and tax collectors. So he's not in the business of judging people based on what they come from. He's in the business, however, of blessing people based on what they're prepared to put in order to go somewhere. He did not even revile the woman that rocked up having had many husbands, that was having an adulterous affair with another man that was not even her husband, and they wanted to stone her. He said, let he who has no sin cast the first stone. That's what Christ said. So the Lord can restore a barren, broken person with really bad statistics and make them better. Put them in prominent positions. He can take the weak things of the world to shame the strong, and the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. But my goodness, you don't get to be a peasant and marry a queen overnight without actually going through whatever school is needed to go through in order for you to graduate from peasant to nobility to queen to king. You don't get, like, if you're gonna be a peasant that takes over a king, you basically have to knock out the present king. You have to go to war. You have to do what David did. He was a lowly shepherd, for crying out loud. David was a lowly shepherd, came from Jesse's household, was the most underestimated out of all his brothers, to a point where when the prophet Samuel wanted to anoint one of the sons of Jesse the dad, brought forward all of these other sons and was like, yeah, these are them. Who here is supposed to be the next king of Israel? And Samuel was like, they're not here. I don't see the one that the Lord has sent me to anoint in such a capacity. Do you have any other kids? Do you have any other sons? And Jesse was like, oh yeah, I guess. I've got that kid out there that's a shepherd, busy tending to the sheep. And then David, the most underestimated one out of them all, was anointed right there and then, son of Jesse. Even his own brothers wanted to give him grief for trying to come up against Goliath. That's how underestimated he was. What did David, from the moment of being anointed king of Israel, do? Did he automatically just wear those shoes? Was he automatically then given a crown? Was David made to automatically wear whatever it is, like carry a scepter and just walk around Israel saying, I'm the king of Israel, because like Samuel said so, as he was sent by God? No. He went through it. He literally had to overthrow the present king by simply being who it is that he was. He had to grow in favor and in strength. He had to become mighty. He had to go and gather for himself mighty men. He had to conquer Goliath and all of those other feats. He had to bring the 4 skins of, 400 Philistines? He had to go through it. He had to survive the dagger from Saul, who every time he was playing the harp would want to attack him. David had to go through all that for, I would imagine, over a decade. I stand corrected. That's exactly how long it took for David to finally get into the shoes of a king. But he had to conquer the insidiousness, the insanity, the rebellion of Saul in order to rightfully inherit his throne. But he was anointed years back when he was just a teenage boy. He was anointed long ago, but by the time he took his throne, he was a grown man that had seen some flames, had a couple of scars on his body, and had actually earned that scepter. So he got a kingdom. He got a kingdom. Think about Joseph. The Lord promised him when he was just a teenage boy that one day the sun and the moon and the stars are going to pay homage to you. And he went around gloating about this as a kid that had not done anything to put in the kind of time that is required to be that kind of powerhouse. And what did he do? He was thrown into slavery. He was abused, persecuted by his brothers who got him sold into slavery. And he worked as a slave in Egypt, worked really hard there and never abandoned his call in Christ. Ran the mile, basically. Got accused of attempted rape, found himself in prison. And then, after a couple of years of working real hard, even in prison, there was a cupbearer and a baker that rocked out. And through I believe it was the cupbearer, he finally got to meet Pharaoh and then became the prime minister of Egypt. Of course, I'm summarizing. You can go and read the whole story of Joseph to figure out exactly how that went about. But it was almost 2 decades that it took for Joseph to meet with fulfilled promise. He was lowly and he became the second most powerful man in the world. David was lowly and he became the king of Israel. It takes time. So to earn kingdoms of that nature, you gotta diligently seek God. So it would have been an abomination and frankly a grand travesty, would it not have been, for David to suddenly just go and grab a crown and sit on there. People would not have respected him. Goodness gracious, where would he have earned that respect? How would people just suddenly trust some kid that came out of nowhere that was a shepherd to run them? He was one of the most favored kings in Israel. He was so favored that even when he was mourning the death of some of his soldiers, that everybody just marveled at him. That's what the Bible says. Like, he was revered. He was beloved by his people. You don't get to love a person unless they fought wars and succeeded to rescue you, deliver you, do stuff for you. People love their president in the country because the president rescued them from historical oppression, literally came up with a strategy through his finance minister to help the economy recover from recession. That is why people end up loving a president in a nation. They fall in love with him. This whole country was enamored with Nelson Mandela because of the struggle that he endured throughout the apartheid for South Africa. You don't just love a king because he knew a guy that knew a guy, and so because of like a couple of election fraud stunts done, he ended up being the president of that country, and so people will take him. Presidents get couped by countries. Literally, citizenship coups happen because the dude is not quite getting around to serving the needs of the people on the ground fast enough. You reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. That is just a basic foundational biblical principle that a lot of people in the church are misinterpreting, and those that are lazy among them are going to find themselves like wholeheartedly and entirely separated from God, thinking that, like the slothful servant I spoke about yesterday, imagined that they could just bury their talents in the ground and then like literally win a queen. Are you really? Like, people gotta put in time. And the Lord, when he gives certain gifts, when he blesses you, when he gives you understanding in advance that you're going to be a queen or a king or a dutch or a duchess, that you're going to run nations, that you're going to have a whole business, that you're going to be a Fortune 500 company. When God tells you these things, when you're just like a 15-year-old boy, can you imagine just how disgruntled staff members in an organization that is a Fortune 500, for instance, would feel when this 15-year-old boy all of a sudden rocks up and is CEO? Everybody would be like, really, my boss is some 15-year-old kid that has no work experience? No respect. But if you work and you grunt and you groan, moan, literally grab a company that was facing liquidation and you come up with a strategy to flip it around on its head, even if you're just a 22-year-old guy, but if you save the jobs of all of your 500 staff members because you rescued a company that was facing liquidation by being just a genius, even if you are just 20 years old, you will be respected as a CEO. You will be respected. So you gotta put in the time. The Lord said even to Timothy, don't let anybody underestimate you through Paul for your age. So God is not in the business of forcing people to wait until they're 59 to do what they need to do really well. He's also not in the business of causing people to feel like they ain't jack because they don't have money or they have a prison term. Like, what is this? Like a status of being an ex-con. God does not use people's stats to like lambaste them with a future that is representative of their past. He is in the business of grabbing people with bad stats and flipping them overnight, but they gotta take that to God and say, I don't want to be a victim of my circumstance, and I do not want to continue to be underestimated by the world like this because I know what I can do. Fine, I made mistakes, but help me correct them, help me come around, like David coming around following the sins that he committed against God with Bathsheba. The prophet Nathan, he found conviction and apologized. Yes, the sword never left his household, but he never left his he never was taken from him the promise that God gave him, that you are going to be the father, the forefather. You're going to be the Your kingdom is going to be established forever. He never took that away from him. But he definitely did punish him for the random things that he did. So even people who have had a history of backsliding, David had a bad problem with backsliding. So too did Solomon. So too did Samson backslide a whole bunch. Jacob, like that's why he had a limp. He was just this like dude into like swindling his brother of like a promise. He was a crook. That's why God gave him Leah first before he could even get his daughter Rachel. What is this? His actual wife, bride that he wanted, Rachel. There are many a story in the scriptures of servants of God that did a 180 after some kind of a backslide, and they tended to have all been men. Like predictably, I'm a backslider's land. So the Lord is not going to hold hostage a person even to his backsliding. Insofar as you will come back like the prodigal son and get yourself all cleaned, the Lord will throw a feast for you, cut like a lamb for you. He will do what needs to be done, but you gotta be of the understanding that you are in no way, shape, form, or position to inherit my kingdom and run it as a king in this state. You gotta be groomed, you gotta be chiseled, you gotta be fixed, because as a son, yes, this here is your kingdom. You are an heir, but you're currently kind of dirty. You are currently kind of scruffy. You squandered your inheritance. You ran amok out here in these streets like a fool. You have the blood inside you to take over my kingdom and run it when I die, but I'm not about to give it to you in this state. Get your act together. Show me that you can run my kingdom. But if as a prodigal son you just want to rock up all of a sudden, grab a scepter, put on like a coat like Haman that does not belong to you but Mordecai, you're going to get uprooted. God said those that go, and don't put yourself at the top, uppermost part of the table. Because then you're going to be embarrassed when somebody says, hey, that's my chair, move. But rather sit at the lower part of the table, at the like peasant section, if you want to call it that. And then when the king rocks up, he will then honor you and exalt you and say, hey, leave that chair, come sit right next to me. The Lord is in the business of exalting those who humble themselves. But if you exalt yourself, you're going to fall with a thud. You're going to fall with a thud. You don't rock up as a peasant and propose marriage to a queen and expect to be embraced. You are going to have yourself brutally rebuffed, suddenly just shut off, because you are arrogant enough to think that a woman that has been raised within the nobility, the elite, is going to be happy to downgrade her status because she's in love. Like, love is just not enough. It's literally not enough. But if you will work like David to do what it takes to ultimately take your throne that Saul tried to take away from you, then on that day as a king, yes, you will be able to marry Job's daughters. You will be able to take Rachel after having initially been given Leah, even though you didn't sign up for it. Because you were a trickster and a con artist, you will walk around with a limp, yes. Because you were a con artist, the Lord will not just so much give you the right wife straight away. He's going to let you wake up in the morning and realize, oh no, I didn't sign up for this, it's Leah. But you will work another 7 years to go and get Rachel. So his intention was to give you Rachel, but not in that condition, not without putting in the time. God is not a communist. He's not a socialist. He's not China, neither North Korea. God is in the business of rewarding. He is more of a capitalist, if anything. Work hard and you will make money. Work hard. Give people opportunities. And so far as you will put in time, the Lord will give you reward in due season. So I spoke about all of that at first in order to get to this point. Men are driven very much by passion, sex, lust. It's a challenge in them more than it is in women. And so when they're very sexually attracted to a woman, sometimes they think that that is sufficient enough motivation for them to do what they need to do just to get this woman's body. He might actually be emotionally in love, but they tend to initially be motivated very much to be with women because of a very strong sexual desire for them. But I am no stranger or foreigner to sex. I come from a world where I was unsaved, and so I had fornication as a sin. I know what the beginning of a relationship where your passions are running from here to Timbuktu and you basically can't stop sweating when you're in the presence of each other. I know how life starts to flatten out and become a little bit drabby when all of that is out the window. When you stop doing the dirty in every corner of the house and the passions that you have to just carry on like bunny rabbits all day long, when that season fades, and sometimes that season can take a whole 2 years in a relationship. It can take a long time. Some people don't just go dry after a month or two and then they get bored. They can be that physically random for a minute. And so it seems as if though this is right, where you comfort yourself with everything else that is lacking in this situation because you're getting really good sex. My goodness, I was a fornicator. I come from a season in my life where sex started out all my relationships. And I thought that I was madly in love and in something that was like feasible to continue running and running and running and running nonstop, well into perhaps even ending up married, purely because the sex was so good. And if we could not for the life of, like, literally, that's how I used to make up from having a fight with my boyfriend. It was always sex. Like, never actually getting to a sound conviction or a sound conclusion that you were wrong, and this way in which you have apologized is the right apology. You get why I was upset. You get it. You really understand that this is something that grated me, and so I can trust that since you have understanding, it's not going to happen again. I rarely ever got around to being satisfied entirely with my boyfriend's boomerang state, like him coming back. I was never entirely happy with there was never a true resolution to the problem that made us fight at first. But we had passions. And so because we missed each other, that's the thing, feelings, you see, like emotions. Feelings. Like, because your heart is like all buxom, and you have got also these hormones that are running like amok. When then you're sitting still kind of, your mouth is still big and it's like you're sulking on the couch. But you still love him and you miss him and you haven't spoken to him in like a minute, and it's been too long. And you are used to talking every day. Like when you guys are cool, you're really good. But when you're not cool, you're really sad, like to a point where you can't concentrate at work. And then now you're like, everything's like it's sad, and it's like you really want to make up, and it's like you miss him, but he doesn't get why you're even that upset in the first place. Doesn't understand. Even the way that he tries to get you back in his life is just like he keeps repeating the same mistake, dropping the same ball, speaking the same things that still put the same fire in your heart of irritation. He never gets around to understanding. The resolution literally is not there. So the issue is still around, but your passions are running amok and you miss because you've decided to go and create a soul tie with somebody. You miss them, you want to be handheld, you want to talk normally again, you want butterflies to run again, you want things to be like, you literally don't want to be feeling so sad all the time. You can't concentrate in your meetings because you're thinking about how you're not with the love of your life on good, like, stead. And so he calls you up and all of a sudden you're calmer because you're sick and tired of fighting. You're a little bit calmer because you don't want to fight anymore. And then he comes over and you talk. And as soon as you see him, heart skip a beat, you like all sweaty palmed again, welcome him into your apartment, make him some tea or some juice. You then talk. And as he's talking, you are still rolling your eyes inside. But you are happy to just let bygones be bygones because you are sick and tired of being so sad. So without him actually figuring out what the heck he did wrong, he's not getting it. He's not getting it. But you are exhausted. You are emotionally bereft, and you miss him because he's right here. You are like, you capitulate, you then start making out. There's literally too much movement outside. I can't stand how I have no privacy in this place. You literally tell yourself that I'm tired of fighting. Like, it's not okay. It's not, especially if this is somebody that you're considering for a husband. Like, you're tired of fighting, and so that's why you get over issues that one day in the future, when your passions have run dry and you can go without sex for an entire week, when that stuff happens, and so therefore there's nothing to make you go back to being bunny. Oh my goodness. You are then going to have these mounting problems that are just not going to go away. And those are the kinds of things that then finally cause divorce, that even though you were together for like 5 years before you got married, you get divorced in like just 2. What did that? The fact that prior to marriage, your passions were lofty. Now that you're married, and now that you've been together for as many years as you've been, you no longer glamorize sex. And so therefore, it's not the be-all and end-all of what runs your relationship. So the mounting issues that were never resolved, they then start to like rear ugly heads. They grow fangs. They have a life of their own. They bubble. They become this gargantuan beast in the room that is no longer an elephant you can continue to ignore. And so, file for divorce. Nanfunk divorce, guys. I don't want to get divorced. I'm a child of God. Like, there's no avenue for women to be dilly-dallying like that in the Bible. Like, we don't get a second chance. It's that basic. And I also don't want to find myself, now that I am divorced because of like whatever, like marital unfaithfulness, I then have to deal with the fact that my passions are my passions for the rest of my life and I will never have sex again. I'm sorry. Like, seriously speaking. To not be able to remarry. I don't want to be buying silly little toys like women in the world. Like, that's what's good. So it literally has to be gotten right the first time. And if then it does not get, if it's not gotten right, frankly, the person that stands to suffer the most is women. We are the ones that get left high and dry after divorce, more so than men ever can, because they tend to go on and just remarry and remarry and remarry. We don't get to do stuff like that. Plus, we have these kids that we have to like. It's just like literally our lives are a little bit harder. Okay, in that regard. So as a woman, you literally have to make sure that what you're entering into is right from the get-go. And so if issues are not resolved, like in fiance mode, in like dating mode, in courtship mode, like, but because your passions are like running amok and you just can't wait to like rip the clothes off, you're gonna rip them off. Maybe you might be ripping them off for the first 3 years of marriage, following which you're gonna be nar irreconcilably, irrevocably, and there will be nothing you can do about it. And if you don't wanna go high and dry or even buy sex toys because you've gotten divorced now, you're gonna have to sit out a guy you can't freaking stand. And that is not the story, I would imagine, of the life of a woman that waited for a husband for 11 years. And counting. It could be 12 next year. With my ex, let me never say exes, but one in particular, it was always like that. Where it is that you are never really around to getting to a resolution as to what's the problem here, why are we fighting, why have we been broken up for 2 weeks? But because you miss him and your passions are through the roof, you kiss, you make out, you jump up and down in the sheets, and then you still look at him afterwards. That was always the case, I kid you not. Look at him sleeping there, and you're like, but you still freaking annoy me. Like there's something you've done and you don't even get that as a problem. So what then happened? What was the problem? What was the typicality? It was this like wave and this peak and this trough. Like this dude imagined me as this like woman that he can never ever satisfy. I was always just dumping him. I was always dumping. Like the passions would get fixed. So you get your fix after a season of like having your like level of desire get to a like certain and like irresponsible level where you're super frustrated, and after you relieve yourself from all of those frustrations from 3 days of being bunny rabbits, then you're like, but you still a dog and I still don't get why you're sitting here. I still don't understand why you don't get why you annoyed me the other day. And this dude is like, but we spoke about this. It's like, but we didn't. That's the thing, we didn't. We spoke and you still don't get it. Like you literally still don't get it. And he's like, no, but you're the crazy one here. And then that's where the gaslighting starts happening. That's where the dude starts feeling like you're this thing that throws your toys out the cot. That's when you start looking like an angry like black woman that is too bitter and for the like worst like life of you don't even know what you actually want. That's why you just look like Mantwa. Like you like fighting. You like just scratching people. Like really, you can't stop. Like all you want to do is just fight. It's like you just enjoy fighting. You look like you enjoy fighting. You look like you have a problem with fighting, but no, it's not that you enjoy fighting. It's that you got tired of fighting. Your passions took over. After relieving yourself from those passions, you then went back to the drawing board and were like, but you still like that stuff is not fixed. And the dude is like, I can't. What in the world? So you look crazy. You look like a woman that can never be reprieved. Well, there's gonna come a time in a marriage when the sex is not even the thing that makes everybody get over themselves anymore. Now it's just 24-hour irritation and there isn't even any desire sexually anymore. And so because there is no desire, there's nothing to make you temporarily make up. And that is the problem with, that is the issue with allowing passions or the desire to just get down and dirty. To let you, just like, get this out of the way already. As Christians, we don't have the leg room to fornicate. We can't just keep on testing things out and then moving on to the next one. Like literally we have to wait for marriage. So if having sex is what you're super looking forward to and your strong feelings, if look, you know, lust is a sin, but feelings, romantic ones at that, for a person will always induce in the person that in the individual parties, like, you know, in this particular equation, it will always induce some kind of sexual desire. Lust literally comes part and parcel with any two people that are falling in love. Like they will wanna get down to that place real quick. So, granted that those passions exist, there is this like massive risk within Christianity, within Christian courtship, where people might just, because of one, we have to wait until marriage, and because you're newly in love, you literally can't stop desiring that. The passions mount up in a way that you can't reprieve yourself of when you were fornicating in the world. And so the desire, the very strong one to finally have sex, might overwhelm all reason and might overwhelm all issues that presently exist that you haven't even talked about, you haven't ironed them out, you haven't literally the things that are problematic right now before you even so much as like say I do. You would be tempted to just let them go, especially considering the passions this time around cannot be reprieved by fornication. You have to wait until marriage. So how much more regret likely exists between newlywed Christian couples as opposed to like random fornicators in the world? They can just dump each other and be like, no, ex-boyfriend, you're an ex-boyfriend now. We don't get to just quickly call it quits because we can only have sex inside marriage. So if then your passions take over your decision making, where you now want to just let issues go because you miss each other like no man's business and your passions are strong and you can't stop imagining the first day. Literally, lust is having a field day with you. It's swinging you like a pendulum. It's throwing you against the wall and beating you black and blue. And you want to conquer it. You want to get it out of the way. And so you quickly get married. But you still have not fixed that thing that irritates you in her or in him. The divorce, guys. None for divorce. Just divorce. Like literally, if you can't, that's what we need to conquer as believers in the Lord Jesus Christ first before we can even think about doing anything else. We need to understand that we don't have the luxury like the world to relieve ourselves of sexual tension before it's literally permanently kind of sealed here. Meaning, people, especially men, because men are the ones that suffer the most with lust, that they have got to actively, consciously, and intentionally think about what in the world really truly is going on here. And am I not potentially being influenced negatively by my strong desire to just have sex? And that's why I'm saying sorry. But I'm not actually sorry. My goodness, you're going to annoy me. I am saying sorry because I want her that way. Yeah, I'm in love too. Okay, fine. So that's true. But more than anything, I just want to get down and dirty. Women are the ones that get over sex fast in a marriage, a relationship, than men. And when then that's over, what's left is how much you care, how much you actually regard me, how much you actually understand stuff about what grates me, what doesn't grate me, what I'm happy to content myself with, and what I just cannot take in my stride. What drives me up the wall, but what also makes me, okay, fine, I'll take it, whatever, no one's perfect. Like, if you don't want to learn any of that, as a woman as well, I struggle with passion, so I might likely find myself just, okay, look, I'm tired of fighting, but, tired of fighting, so get married real quick when I'm a queen. And this is David as a shepherd. He is yet to fight Goliath. Still some boy. Oh my goodness. But I mean, I know he can be a king. I am gonna get hurt. Like, men, they just have there's this thing about low-hanging fruit that they don't really like. Like, they get motivated. How in the world can I describe how a man ultimately gets his act together where a woman is concerned? It's like putting a fishing rod, a fishing rod, on the back of a donkey or a horse or a zebra, some animal that eats carrots, okay? And like attaching a fishing rod to its back, and it's just dangling this carrot stick, like at a distance. And so this little zebra then like is chasing after this carrot, thinking that it's going to catch up to it, and like literally it'll never catch up because it's attached to its body. And so if you wanted to like gallop the entire mile, you have to keep the carrot in sight of this donkey so it can run, gallop, but never actually catch it until it has arrived at the destination, following which you will then nicely remove that like whole fishing rod off the back of the camel, or not camel, but like donkey, zebra, whatever, and then like literally actively feed it now that it's reached its destination. That is what Christian women need to get in the business of doing when, if at all they love a man, or if they want somebody to realize that, nah, dude, like, look, I'm not trying to judge you because your life sucks right now, but I am not trying to be a queen married to a peasant, but even though because of the fact that he's got potential to be a king, I don't want that. Like, my life will suck and I will feel ridiculous. So I'm gonna go and dangle myself in front of you while you gallop, and as you're galloping, you're literally covering ground. You're covering ground. You're getting to where you need to get, and only once you get to where you get, I personally will give myself to you as a snack. I will. But until then, no. And if a dude decides that he's fed up, and that dangling carrot is not worth it for him to fight, and then he spins on the spot or doesn't even pursue it, or even in and of himself breaks it off his back, then fine. Somebody else will want that carrot. It's that basic. I am a woman of high value. I know myself. I am not in the business of judging men based on history, because Christ never does that. But I am not going to allow myself, who is a 100-fold over blessing to any man, I get that. I'm not going to allow myself to be given to someone that has not put in the time. Like, if anybody does not want to work, let them not eat. I cannot, just like Christ could not and did not reward Cain for a bad sacrifice, I will not then reward Cain for a bad sacrifice, because then I would be giving myself into the hands of a man that's going to ultimately abuse me, because that's what happens. What are you going to do? I am a woman in a very lowly position right now. And so therefore I've got nothing to my name, but it is clear where I can go and what I can do. What's going to happen when I start to walk in my full calling? And you're still lowly, meager when you're supposed to be a king? You're going to become Ike Turner. You're going to beat me up. You're going to abuse me. You're going to be a jealous husband that's frustrated by the glory of his wife. Like, men just cannot stomach or stand women that are too powerful in comparison to them. And so while I can see potential of a man to be powerful, but he just is not that right now, I am not going to give myself to him, because while I'm meager and lowly right now, I can see how perhaps maybe it might be feasible to be with a peasant. But what then when I start to walk in my calling as a queen, since the Lord is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him? I am ready, I am ripe, I am groomed. I am sorted. I've arrived, I am a good find. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains a favor from the Lord. If a person is currently, like in the prisons, in the state, if he's currently getting anointed as the future king of Israel, but has not yet done the time, I'm sorry, no. Let the Lord be the one to give you a time machine to speed up your process if at all you're truly mine, but I'm not going to allow myself to be made more lowly and more meager while I've got some embarrassing, random friends and family members who want to see me get married badly, who want to see me settling, who want to see me literally get out of here through someone that took for granted that I am not yet walking in the fullness of what I can, and so he's in a position to just take me real quick, dust me off, put me in some lowly position, and so get me laughed at by some fools who wreaked havoc in my life. Sex is motivating men. Allow yourselves then, if you're Christian men, to conquer that. If anything causes you to sin, cut it off. If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. If at all sex or the desire for it is making you want to go and pursue a woman that is literally a queen while you are a peasant, cut that off. Work on what you need to work on, and then maybe in the future, go after that. Like, seriously speaking, we understand that sex can motivate a man to be a fool. Look at what David did with Bathsheba. But what then happened with David? The sword never left his household because of what he did with Bathsheba. I don't want to get hurt. And I also don't want to get divorced. And I also don't want to be buying any sex toys. So I don't want to marry a man that I'm going to be a bunny rabbit with for 2 years, following which I'm going to be annoyed because he's just not quite getting around to fixing issues that I spoke about before we even started. A courtship, like you are literally walking, groveling around like a baby crawling rather. Still, through 2-3 years in a marriage, when I raised this before we even went on our first date. I have passions, but I'm not stupid because of them. I'm a woman, and so therefore I'm in a position to help correct that particular problem in our men. As women, we're not supposed to be preaching to men, but how in the world do you even convict men of the insanity of their lust without telling them that we are much better at dealing with it than you are? And if at all you're dealing with a woman as well that has a history of fornication, more so is she going to have an example in the past of how it is that guys literally, unless you speak through an issue, they never come around, and passions, having sex to correct a problem never makes the problem go away. If anything, it just makes everybody really bitter later on. That is what I wanted to cover today. I wanted to cover it today because I do not want to be pursued because I am sexy, because I am somebody that somebody can't wait to have sex with, because I am attractive in so very many ways, and so I am missed and my voice is missed, and all these things really that are more like satisfies as opposed to hygiene factors, they're there, and I also have them. I do not want to be apologized to because I am missed. I want to be apologized to because somebody realizes that they were wrong. But if that won't happen, then it's all good in the hood. I guess I gotta sign out in the name of Christ and leave that thought lingering in your minds as to why in the world I'm even speaking like this. Crank K. Peace.